cool. Elizabeth, just so that you know, if you haven't had a chance to grab some sort of long-handled object, I have a wooden spatula. If you just it's not sharp, that'll make a nice massage tool. And then some sort of tennis ball or any sort of round object, even a rock would work if that's all you've got.
The funny thing is I actually do have a rock.
There you go.
I think I can
we like to adapt here, whatever you can get your hands on.
Yeah, we're good at adapting. That's one thing, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then the last thing is, if you're seated, to grab some sort of like muscle roller, so a rolling pin would work, even just a drinking glass would work. Or if you're feeling like getting down on the floor today, then either a foam roller or just a beach towel or even a bath towel folded over and rolled up into a nice cylinder will work.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so spatula, ball, a roller. What am I forgetting?
Yes.
There's 4 things or 3?
Those 3, and then if you have a long sock nearby, then you can grab that, but I'll just do a demonstration of how that works at the end. So if you want to kind of use it, then a long sock would be fantastic. And we'll get started once you get back with your stuff.
Okay, great.
Just shot out an email to everyone, so fingers crossed they all pop on here.
Sweet. If they don't, it's their loss, and we'll just have to cover massage a little bit more at the end of the
month.
Well, and they can always watch it on YouTube afterwards too.
That's
right.
But hopefully they pop on.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm almost there. Just go and get the rock. Actually, before I got disabled, I was living in Belize, and I used to be I still am adventurous, but outer. Anyways, I was living in a jungle, and I was in this gorgeous river, and my foot found this beautiful, perfect rock, and that's what we're using.
Cool. Love it.
That's a little story. I actually do. It's just really grounded because of the water.
Yeah. It sounds like the best rock you could possibly have for this.
Yeah, I know. And I really thought about it before I took it out of there. And I said, should I really take this? But in the end, since I, went through so much, it was really great to actually have this with me.
Yeah.
Good.
Later on. Okay, I think I'm set. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Well, then Elizabeth, Frank, Gwen, welcome. So today we're going to be doing some massage techniques as well as a little bit of pressure point and a little bit of myofascial release, which is the fancy way of saying massaging your connective tissues. Yeah, right?
Awesome.
And so this is the first in our series about exercise recovery. So we'll cover something different every week with the hopes that you can just do this on your own going forward. So some of the benefits of massage is it will decrease pain. It'll decrease muscle soreness if you do it regularly after your exercise. So that means maybe 10 minutes after you exercise, just, working on a few muscle groups, doing that, 2 to 5 times a week, depending how often you're exercising. And that'll actually increase circulation and blood flow through your muscles, which helps to wash out all of the toxins and junk that we build up when we exercise. It'll decrease stress and also increase your flexibility and strength, like I said, when you do it regularly, 3 to 5 times a week. So just some fun facts for you. And then, so we're going to start with a warm-up. I'll have a seated and a standing version of every warm-up exercise, so you can kind of choose, but the massage will all be done in a seated position, either on the floor or on a chair. The floor, I think, is a little bit more stable, but whatever is accessible for you. So we're going to start just by reaching our arms up toward the sky, trying to touch the ceiling, and then reaching down toward your feet. And we're going to just go up to the sky and down to your feet 10 times. So 3 up to the sky and down, and up and down. Every time you go up, try to reach a little bit further, and every time you go down, a little further as well. So we've got 3 more, up and down, up, down. Last one, up and down. And then we're going to warm up our neck because we will be working on that today. So we're going to do neck rolls. So you can start by leaning your left ear to your left shoulder, rolling your chin to your chest, right ear to right shoulder, and then to the back. Just go in those circles. We'll do 10 each direction. Really try to get your ears as close as you can to those shoulders just to get the most range of motion possible here. Got 2 more going this direction, and then we'll switch and go the opposite way.
And Emily, what are the crackles?
Oh, in your neck? Or
Yeah.
are you doing my neck or your neck?
No, mine.
Okay. So those are a combination of things. So it could just be your ligaments and tendons snapping across like the processes in your spine. It could also be that you have just little bubbles of nitrogen in the fluid that surrounds all the joints in your neck. All right. And so now, sorry, what was that, Frank?
I thought it was arthritis.
Could be that
Arthritis
too.
breaking up or something, right?
Yeah. All right. Our next one's going to be a jumping jack or a seated jack. So if you are able, then you're going to put your feet, so you start at hip distance and then you spread wide. Your arms start down at your sides and then they'll swing up laterally to your head. And so you'll just do the jumping jack, kind of making an X shape with your body. We'll do 20 of these.
Elizabeth, if you're able and comfortable turning on your camera, it will help to see.
Maybe I have the virtual.
We see kitty cats.
Oh,
They're very cute kitty cats.
They are adorable.
I mean, my place is, my blindness comes from the light, so I didn't have too much light in here, so maybe.
Okay. Whatever atmosphere you're most comfortable in. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable.
Try to.
Yeah. All right. We'll do 2 more here. All
I'm
right.
going real slow, just to let you know.
That is totally okay.
Very.
Yeah, you're good.
How's that? Are you able to see me enough, or?
Can
It might
see
be
you
dark,
a little bit, but if you just tell me if you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, then I'll do my best.
But you can't see me?
Not really, no.
I can see your outline, so I can just make sure if we're doing everything right, that will be good.
Sorry about that.
No,
I don't
be.
have lights in this room.
That is okay. We don't want you to make your eyes more uncomfortable, so you stay in the dark.
I have a camping lantern.
No, you're all right. Okay, so
Next time I'll set up in a different space, so you'll be able to have more light to see me.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, and now we're just going to do some overhead reaches. So I'm going to start with my left arm and kind of swing it across my head and reach toward my right side, and then take my right arm and do the same thing. So I'm just crossing, kind of leaning, trying to stretch that oblique, so the side muscles in my trunk. And I'm just switching one arm over top and then the other. Kind of feel like I'm doing one of the 80s dance move things like that you do in Zumba or a Jane Fonda movie. All right, 3 more. All right, and now we're just gonna do trunk rotations. So if you're seated, then you just kind of put your elbows in a nice comfortable spot that you don't smack yourself, and then just rotate from the right to the left. Keep your hips square to the front of your body, and just your spine and your head and your neck will twist from one side to the other. Kind of like, I don't know, a windmill type deal.
Oh, are arms out or down?
No, Elizabeth, yours were good. They were bent. Yep.
Yep. All right, and 3, 2, 1, and relax. And so now we can get into what you've all been waiting for, some massage. So So I'm going to start with just an overview of 5 different techniques that you can use when you're doing self-massage. All of them have the same kind of basic concept of just applying light to moderate pressure to work that muscle and just increase the blood flow. But we'll move our hands in different ways, and it just helps. Like every person is different, and so for me, like certain ones might feel really good, and for you they might hurt, and so we can kind of switch off. And so the first technique that I'm going to explain is called kneading. So similar to kneading bread, you can use either your elbow, your fist, the heel of your hand, or your fingers to accomplish this. You could even use that massage tool, so that long-handled spoon, spatula, whatever you have. And so I'm going to demonstrate on my quad, so the top of my thigh. And I would encourage you guys to kind of just feel how these feel as we go. So the first one, like I said, is kneading. So if you're kneading bread, you kind of push down into the muscle and then go in a small circle, move your hands from wherever they were to a new spot on that muscle, and just make those small circles, pretending you're kneading bread. Just push down and do those small circles. And you can do this all over the muscle. If you don't know where that muscle is, then you can totally shout out, and I will explain a little bit more about that one. So our next technique is going to be just squeezing. So similar to a stress ball or a lemon or whatever, you're going to grab the top of your thigh, so your quad, with one hand. I have my thumb on the inner part of my quad or of my leg and my fingers on the outer part, but like I said, you're going to move around, so it doesn't necessarily matter where you place those. And then just pinch your muscle together between your hands. And so this technique works with either one hand or both hands. So with a big muscle like your quad, you can take both hands, place one on each side, and then push them together, kind of pulling up, and then pull down and pull your hands apart. And so you can just squeeze that whole muscle together. All right.
Are you keeping your fingers together?
Of your
Or are they
muscles.
spread?
Well, you don't want to just get the skin at the top and pinch yourself.
Yeah, so I'm using the heels of my hand when I do the squeezing with both hands. So I kind of push, so my fingers are not even on my leg right now. I should have told you that. And so I'm just pulling up on my leg and pushing my heels of my hands together while I pull up. And then when I pull down, I pull my hands apart and push down. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow.
Sweet. Yeah, it feels nice, right? All right. And then the third technique, not to ruin your fun, is called percussion. So again, this can be done with your hands or your tool. I would recommend either using the outside of your hand, so your pinky finger down to your wrist, or making a fist and just pounding like you're playing the drums all up and down that muscle.
And what part of your fist are you using, Emily?
Oh, I'm using the pinky side as well, but you can use your knuckles, whatever.
Okay, got it.
I just find the pinky makes the least noise, so that's what I've been using for this call. But whatever part feels good for you and your range of motion. All right, and then the fourth technique is called stroking. So this is the lightest pressure of the massage techniques. So with this one, you're primarily going to be using your fingers, your fingertips. You can also use that tool. It'll just be a little bit of, it'll have less coverage than your hands will. So for stroking, you want to start at the bottom of the muscle. So for quad, you're going to place your fingers just slightly spread out around the top of your kneecap. And then you apply slight pressure downward and then slide your fingers up towards your hip, just pulling towards your hip. And then once you get there, release, move your fingers back to the top of your knee and continue. With the tool, you can do the same thing. Just put pressure on your muscle with that tool, pull and slide that tool from your knee to your hip. And you can just kind of get a little bit more pressure with a tool than you can with your fingers. And then the last technique is targeted pressure. And so targeted pressure, you use this when you find a really tight spot in your muscle or a knot. So you'll know when you hit one of those, either when you feel like something just jumped or slid under your fingers, or if you hit a spot and it's like, wow, ouch, like I really felt that. Then you can use that targeted pressure, find the middle of that sore spot, and either use your thumb, one of your knuckles on, say, your pointer finger, just bend your finger and use that knuckle. Or you can use your tool and you just push into that spot and apply as much pressure as you can that it's not painful, but just uncomfortable. We never want pain when we're massaging because pain's our body's way of telling us, hey, that wasn't a good idea. And so when you do that targeted pressure, you want to hold for about 10 to 15 seconds or until you feel that spot release. If the spot doesn't release, do the 10 to 15 seconds, take a break and do it again. And just do it kind of as long as you can stand or until that spot releases. So now that we have an overview of everything going on, we'll start with our self-massage. So I'm going to move my camera down a little bit so you can see my legs. We're going to start with our calves. And so I'm going to start with a kneading motion. So remember that is pushing up and then making small circles into that muscle. So the calf is on the back of your leg. It's a really large muscle, so you can pretty much go from the back of your ankle up into the crook in the back of your knee. So some good techniques for your calf would be kneading, squeezing, stroking, and then the targeted pressure is really anytime you find that tight spot. Percussion is good, but it is difficult to do on yourself just with the angle of your calf. But if you have a friend or a family member that really wants to help you out here, then you can totally ask them to help. And so as we're doing these, I want you guys to just experiment with the different techniques. And then just go all along that muscle. You don't have to stay in one spot, just move freely around for whatever feels good for you. And so we'll do about 5 more seconds on this leg and then we'll switch to the other.
Emily, could you go over that one, just because I'm forgetting it because I'm applying it to a different feeling part of my body. You know, like it was squeezed together and then you sort of lift up.
Oh yeah, the squeezing.
So you're pushing the sort of from the outside of by the Achilles heel first. Is that sort of where you are in the beginning?
Yeah, just about at the bottom there. So you can push the heels of your hand together. Yep, and then you can pull, and you're kind of pull forward on that.
Forward, you mean? What do you mean by forward?
Sorry,
toward the ceiling or towards the?
So I'm going to orient trying to use your leg. So your calf is on the back of your leg. So if you're squeezing, then you're going to push your heels of your hands together while you're going toward your calf. So it's probably toward the floor going that way.
Okay.
And then when you pull your hands apart, you're going to pull up toward the ceiling or up toward the front of your leg where your shin is.
Oh, wow. And the pinkies are kind of touching?
Yeah,
or not
almost.
Quite. Okay, good.
Yeah, my pinkies are just about overlapping when I'm doing
this.
Yeah,
okay, good. Then we're in the same.
Awesome. Of course. Yep, so that is the calf. We'll spend about 5 more seconds here, and then we will move on to our quads.
So yeah, you want to do that pinching from that Achilles tendon all the way up to behind the knee. You want to get that whole calf muscle. So if you need to pinch a few times, working your way up, or if you decide to knead, kind of make sure you're getting that whole muscle in there.
Definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not a movement that, we normally make. So I have a brain injury, so I'm almost like, it's great because for that too, I'm just sort of training myself to like do emotion, where in life do you really, do this? So that's really great.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird one to do.
But it's great.
Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely. All right, and so you guys can still enjoy the calves while I explain what we're going to do next. So because we already did all the massage techniques on the quads in the beginning of this. We're just going to talk about foam rolling, or that myofascial release for your quads. So to do that, if you are on the ground, then you can set the foam roller perpendicular to your body. So I'm kneeling and I have the foam roller touching both of my knees. And so what I'm going to do is just lean my body forward so that my quads end up on top of the foam roller. My hands are in front of me, almost in a push-up position. And then my toes are just kind of dangling. They're slightly raised off the floor so that I have more weight on the foam roller than on anything else. And so when you're using a foam roller, you want to lean as much weight as you can into the muscle you're using. So you can do either both quads at the same time by just laying down and just rolling yourself forward and back from your hips to your knees. If you want a little bit of a deeper pressure, then you can tilt your body on so that you only have one leg contacting the foam roller and roll forward and back.
Elizabeth, if you can picture Superwoman flying, so her belly is along the floor, and that foam roller is going to be rolling up and down your thighs. So if your belly is to the floor, like you're doing a belly flop in the pool, and then you're going to roll that foam roller up and down the top of your thigh, which is what your quads are.
Oh my God, they feel so good. You know, I have this and I didn't know how to use it, so I'm so glad.
Oh, yes.
But
So
this feels amazing.
yes, so you can also do that on your calves if you want to. You just place it underneath your calves, and it is a little difficult because you're kind of going to have to do like, if imagine you're doing a crab walk, but your calves, instead of being, you know, bent into that like crab walk position, you're just going to have them resting on that foam roller, and you'll use your hands to walk forward and back if you're interested later. If you want to do this seated, you're just like watching TV or whatever, you can grab that rolling pin or that cup, and you can just place it perpendicular to your leg, and then just push into your leg. I like doing it with a rolling pin because I feel like I'm making cookies. And so you can do that, or you could also just grab that tennis ball and push your tennis ball down into that muscle on your quad and just roll in kind of little circular motions, just like you would if you were kneading. And so that is that.
So you're doing it
and our
over
next
the
one
top
is
of your
all-
quad?
Yeah,
Sorry?
over the
Okay.
top of my quad with like the tennis ball you're talking.
Yeah, or an orange.
Yep, perfect. The orange, the rock, whatever.
I thought you might like that. That's what I thought.
No,
Don't
the right
push
size,
too hard
too.
with the orange unless you want to make orange juice on
I
yourself.
know.
yeah, be careful. You're gonna smell like
Sacrificial orange.
You'll
Yeah.
smell great though.
Yeah. So if you're using that ball, you can start at your hip almost, like just where your hip kind of creases. You can push that ball in one spot. So I have the ball sitting on top of my leg. I have my hand directly on top of the ball, and I'm just kind of leaning forward and putting pressure into that ball. The more you lean forward, the more weight you put on it, the more discomfort you're going to feel, but also the deeper into that muscle you're
I'll
getting.
switch to him.
And then, yeah, you just
The
roll.
orange didn't last too long. I forgot I had the rock.
yeah.
The rock is good for this, right?
Yes, the rock
The
is good
rock.
for this. It might not roll perfectly, but you can kind of just compensate for that by shifting the weight on your hand in circles rather than relying on the rock to roll around.
Okay.
Yep, and you can just move it up and down your calf or your quad as you're sitting watching TV, whatever you want to do. So you guys can still mess
And you
with
would do the same for your calf, or?
for the calf, it would be a little difficult sitting down. I would say you could, if you're able to get your leg kind of up towards your body.
Oh yeah, that's
And
the
you
trick.
can place, you can put the ball right behind your calf, and then again so it would be calf, ball, hand going from the front to the back, and your hand would push the ball into your calf, kind of pushing it, trying to like push the ball through your leg as much as you can. It is a little bit more difficult. So
this is where that wooden spoon or spatula, yep, she's grabbing it right now.
Yeah. So that would be helpful because you can, yeah, you can kind of just like poke yourself. And you don't have to leg all the way up to your chest or anything like that to do that. Yeah. So
could it also work? Would it be okay to just because I have little issues with my legs, but maybe they're just like if you just have them side kind of down.
Okay.
You know, like if you imagine you just sort of let your leg go open to the left, down, you know, on the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
Or could that be a way to reach it too if you couldn't get it all the way?
Yeah, definitely. Like anything you can do to just get closer to it so your arm is closer, that works.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Then I can reach it.
Awesome. So now we're going to move on to our hamstrings and our glutes. So the backs of our legs and our butt. So if you have that foam roller, you can literally just sit on top of it for your glutes. And then when you sit on top of it, you can just roll yourself back and forth, just kind of pull your body forward using your heels. You just roll. You can do the same thing.
I was just about to say, and then I watched it go down. Be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't go crazy. You're going to slide off and fall.
If you need to hold on to something, you can do this. I see that Frank is doing it right next to a chair. So he's holding onto that chair for stability. That is awesome.
Resourcefulness. Yeah, you can put your hands on the ground behind you as well. That can help. If you are seated on just a wooden chair, you can do the same thing with the tennis ball. Just put the tennis ball under your butt and just kind of shift your weight around, kind of like penguin, waddling. And that ball will just add a whole lot of pressure to those muscles in there. And then from here, you can shift. So you have space, just roll slightly back so that your legs are on top rather than your butt. And so your hamstrings, your hamstrings are meeting that foam roller there. And we can just roll forward and back. And the same thing that we did with our quads. Remember, we shifted our weight from both legs to just one leg. So if you want a little bit more, we can kneel, or not kneel, wow. I can bend. So I have my left leg bent with my right leg straight out, resting on the foam roller. This just gives me a little bit more stability, and I can lean back and forth on each muscle. So there is an insertion point to your hamstring, which just means that's where the muscles kind of converge, right below your butt. And if you're able to find that spot, sometimes there's a lot of tension there, and just sitting on that spot can relieve a lot of tension and pain and tightness. So I don't mean to like fly through this, but I do want to cover as much as possible. So we're going to move on to the upper body and start with our hands. You can do a nice hand massage just mostly with that kneading or squeezing motion. So if you put your thumb on your palm and then wrap your fingers around the back of your hand, you can do it from either side, and then move your fingers in either a walking motion or a circular motion, and you can really get into those knuckles and all those tendons that allow your fingers to extend. And so we can do that for a few seconds on both hands. I'm going to explain the next thing. So I promised pressure points, and pressure points are really great, but they're also difficult to find sometimes. So I'm going to show you guys a nice, easy one. Can
I just ask you real quick? I'm so sorry. Yeah. Is your thumb by the palm?
Yeah, my thumb is on my palm. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And then my fingers wrap around the back of my hand.
Thank you.
And so this pressure point on your hand is supposed to be really good for relieving headaches if you just hold on to it. So you can keep that one in mind. My parents swear by it. But so if you have your hands, you notice there's kind of a webbing between your thumb and your pointer finger. Yeah. And so I'm going to use my other hand to grab that webbing, just pinch it between my fingers. So I have the thumb on the back of my hand and my pointer finger on the inside of my hand on the palm. And so I'm going to squeeze, and you can kind of feel there's like a nice muscle there. There's a meaty part, and then there's just a spot where you're like, oh, that's just skin. So we want to grab onto the meaty part and slide until we feel like we're going to lose it. And right there, you're going to pinch and hold. And we'll hold this for 10 seconds. If you guys have been able to find it. Frank, have you found it?
I don't know.
You mean it's kind of right before you get just skin?
Yeah.
When
So
you say, okay.
Yep. So Frank, if you pinch your hand in the nice meaty part and then slide your fingers like you're going to let go. So I have my fingers on the meaty part here, and then I pull, and then there's a point where I just get skin right here, right? But before I do that, I feel my fingers sliding off. And right before they slide off, that's where the pressure point is.
Like a tender spot?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you should feel a little bit of increased discomfort when you hit it.
The word I like for this one is twang.
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 Yeah.
Don't pinch it too hard, otherwise it won't help with the headache. It will just make something else hurt.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes these can make you feel a little bit weird. And so you have that for 10 seconds. You can switch to the other hand, try and find it. You might notice that on your dominant hand, this spot is a little bit meatier. I know mine is, and it freaked me out the first time, but that's just because there's more muscle in your dominant hand. So maybe I need to use my left hand a little bit more. That's what it's telling me. All right. And so that's a pressure point. So I will make sure that I know I've sent Elizabeth the chart already. Elizabeth, if you want me to talk you through where some of them are, I can set up a time to do that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and then Frank, I will send you a chart with those pressure points, and it's the same idea with all of them. You're going to grab your tool, most likely something nice and hard, or you can use your knuckles to get pressure points, and you just push in and hold for 15 seconds, just like you would for that targeted pressure that I talked about when you find a nice tight spot on your muscle for a massage. And so, yeah. So the next thing we're going to do is our forearm. So for our forearm,
good.
Yes, I'm going to use a squeezing technique. Squeezing and kneading, I think, work the best for these muscles, just because there are a lot of small ones in here. And so when you squeeze and knead, you kind of move over and around those muscles. So to do this, I'm going to place my thumb on the non-hairy inside part of my hand, and then, or my forearm, my bad. And then I'm going to place my fingers on the hairy part of my forearm, right about at my wrist. And then I'm just going to use that squeezing motion to move my thumb and my fingers from my wrist slowly down to my elbow, and then you can go back up. If your forearm is feeling it, you can totally do those circles with the kneading motion. You can use your tool or your tennis ball also to get into these muscles. So the tennis ball, you can just kind of push and roll over. It would be helpful to place your forearm hair side down on your knee to do that, just so you have a little bit more stability. And we're going to switch to our other arm. So same thing, thumb on the non-hairy part, fingers on the hairy part, and just knead or squeeze in those circular motions. If you find a spot that's nice and tight, practice that targeted pressure, hold on for 15.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
There you go. And feel that release. So that is.
Yeah, I'm telling my arm. She said release. my arm's not listening very well.
Oh,
release.
man.
It doesn't want to release that quick.
It's a good thing to return to if it doesn't release.
Right.
So we're going to move to our biceps. So for this, I'm going to put my thumb pretty much in my armpit, because our bicep is on the inner portion, the non-hairy part of our arm. And so I have my thumb pretty much in my armpit, and then I'm letting the rest of my fingers just relax to the other side of my arm. And squeezing works really well for the bicep because it's a big muscle. There are two heads, but they kind of move together. Two heads just means there are two muscles, hence bicep. I'm sure.
Oh, I never thought.
Yeah. And so you can move from that armpit down to the bend in your elbow.
So tricep, that means there's 3 muscles back there?
Yes, there are 3 back there. They're just
It's one of those things. It's like, how could it never have occurred to me that was what it came.
And then your quadricep and your leg, there are 4 of them. So it's all sorts of fun. And then we can switch to the other arm. So some good techniques for your bicep. I think squeezing is the most effective.
And what happens when you feel it where it moves? It must be one of them, right? It's just like clunk, clunk. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. You're squeezing those muscles right between your fingers. So it is kind of a little weird that you can feel it. But yeah, you're just, you're really getting into the tissue and allowing it a little bit more mobility.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, this really does like exercise.
Yeah, you're coming at it from such a great angle to start from the inside the armpit. Isn't that amazing? Wow.
Yeah, there we go. So
because I always do it like up here, when I'm just trying to squeeze it if it hurt, but I never started going under.
Yeah.
You can really, really get it there.
For sure. It's crazy. It's all about hand placement.
Yeah.
All right. And then our next one, we're going to do our trapezius. So that is the big muscle that runs up the back of your neck, down towards your shoulders, and then throughout your back, just kind of between your shoulder blades. So to do this one, we're just going to focus on the top portion of this muscle because that's where we hold a lot of tension. So I'm going to use my right hand for the left trap. So my left hand is kind of resting with my thumb right on my neck, and the rest of my fingers just resting toward my pinky is the closest to the shoulder. And all you're going to do is use your pointer finger and your middle finger to just push into that muscle, kind of like you're just pulling down from the back toward the front, and you can just move it around in small circles. This one always hurts a lot. So if you're starting to feel pain, like I said, that's not good. Do a little bit less pressure, and you can move these fingers around in just about a 4-inch square around that spot, and you're going to be hitting that trap. So we'll do this for about 5 more seconds, and then we'll switch to the other side, just using the left hand on the left shoulder. Using a tool.
This is a great time to pretend like your shoulder is a piano and use your fingers to kind of play the piano, and it feels wonderful. And you get that whole, like I'm saying, that 4 square inch section right in there.
Yes, thanks, Gwen. I always forget about the wiggling your fingers. I get so like caught up on just kneading this muscle.
That's and like kneading definitely, it works it in a lot more, but if it's too much, because a lot of people are so tight up here that kneading can be pretty painful, that sometimes you got to just start with the wiggle fingers and then work into kneading at some point later.
Yeah, and that wiggling your fingers is a modified version of that percussion technique that we talked about earlier with fists. So now that we have that one done, we're going to finish up with the neck, just because neck massages are the best massages in my opinion. So to do this one, I'm going to lean forward so that Frank can kind of see. So what you're going to do is lean your head forward so that the crown of your head, the top of your head kind of points toward the floor. And then take your fingers and reach to the back of your neck and feel for your hairline with your fingers. And once you get to your hairline, you're just at the base, you're trying to find the base of your skull. So you can just kind of feel around, and you might notice that there's kind of a divot.
Yeah.
Just slightly above your hairline. If you find that divot, then you put your fingers right in there. If you're not finding it, that's okay. My skull is probably different than yours. And you can just keep your fingers about an inch, half an inch to an inch above your hairline. And this is where those piano fingers or walking fingers are really wonderful. So starting in that divot, you can kind of walk your fingers down the middle of your neck, along the sides of your spine, and you can walk them toward your shoulders. You can wrap around the front of your neck if you would like, and then you can just walk up to that divot and come back down. Just using those walking fingers. Try to do some kneading here with those fingers as well, those circular motions. But I think percussion works really well here, just because of how many muscles there are and how tight they tend to be. So you can really focus on how much pressure you're applying there.
And if you're not feeling a dominant divot, because I definitely don't, if you just feel a little bit of a soft spot there at the nape of your neck, just above your hairline, that's kind of where that is. Some people, it's a little more prominent than others.
Yes. I apologize. I had that written down to tell you all this soft spot, but
no, you were good. It's like the adult version of a soft spot, right? At least thankfully it's not a self-destruct button.
Right. And so in the interest of time that we are getting there, a good way to massage your shoulders, because obviously it's really hard to reach back there and really get a good massage. If you're able to put that rock or tennis ball or whatever ball you have into a long sock, push it all the way down to the toe of that sock, then you can sling it right over your shoulder so that it hangs down on your back. I'll turn so you can see. And then you can lean up against anything even remotely hard. So even a couch works for this. You can lean against a wall, your couch, your chair, whatever that might be. And this tennis ball will just apply pressure to these muscles that are all on our shoulder blades and our back. And so with this, you can kind of control where you have the tennis ball by either letting more of the sock fall down your back or less of the sock fall down your back. So you can lean into that. You can do little circles with your torso just to give that kneading motion if that's what you like. You can do targeted pressure by just leaning all of your weight back into it. And so this is just a really nice tool to do that. Yeah. So I hope that you all enjoyed today and learned at least something.
Yes.
If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to email me at intern@adaptiveadventures.org. It's on the registration page if you forget. And so just to take care of yourself, remember to drink lots of water. That's essential to recovery, and especially after massage, because we heat up all those muscles. We need them to be able to cool down. Try to avoid exercising for about 6 hours after massage, just so that all of the tension that we broke up, like all of that junk can just get flushed out before we build it back up again. And then, eat a snack, take care of yourself, and